If you follow the advice in this video, I believe that you will have double the amount of free time and can do better on the exams at the end of the year. Here's how. I'm going to talk about the different rates of learning across different mediums, such as text, audio, writing, and we'll discuss how I've used the relative speeds of these things to optimize the study that I do. Now, I encourage you to, especially when you go into uni, to challenge the way you've been learning prior. Previously, I'd just been writing out and typing out massive documents worth of notes, but that changed very quickly and went into a different format, which was more flashcard based. Now, with AI coming through, there's completely different ways to learn. And the people who will do the best are the people who are constantly experimenting. So always push yourself outside your comfort zone with every test, every assignment, and you will eventually find what works for you long term. So here's an analysis of the different speeds in terms of writing, typing, speaking, reading, and train reading. So by writing, it's handwriting. So lots of people handwrite their notes. Now, realistically, in the past, people have said, this is really beneficial because you synthesize the information. By writing it, you remember it and you have to sort of reword the information as it goes in. Completely reasonable. The only thing to bear in mind is that it's slow. You'll get on average 15 words per minute. You have to, if you make not typos, if you make spelling errors or it's not formatted the way you like it, it can be a bit clunky, even if people are writing on an iPad as most people do. So while yes, I agree that there's some benefit in slowing down and rephrasing things, you also need to note that it's completely passive. Generally, you're just writing something off a screen. Even if you're rewording things, you'll be writing notes in a completely passive way, and it's going to take a long time. So someone realistically could type 5 times as much in the time that you write. And so that's important. So typing is 5 times as fast as writing. So then you have to bear in mind, like, sure, typing, it's not going to go in because you're just typing out essentially what the lecturer says or what the notes say. But you can get 5 times as more written down. And so if you use all the surplus time that you spend typing the notes for active things, such as flashcards or typing out the notes such that there's a question and then a hidden part, which you can then review later, then I would wager that typing with an active review later is a better use of time than writing alone. Then there's speaking. Now, I say this because it's worthwhile thinking about how your content is presented. So, most lectures are either sort of text-based slides where the lecturer talks over it, or you have lots of diagrams and the lecturer will talk over that. So if it's just text-based slides and the lecturer is just essentially reading what's on the slides, if you have access to that pre-recorded, it's worthwhile thinking about how you can, I guess, manipulate that to your favor. So if the slides are just plain and text-based, that content will be delivered at around 140 words per minute. Now, if you put it on 2 times speed, then you can then put it to 280 words per minute, which is pretty reasonable. And furthermore, you can, if it's just text-based, like you don't really need to be looking at the screen itself. So what I would do there is just try and get the audio-only stuff where there's no visual component done while I'm doing something else. Maybe you're doing chores at home, you're cooking, you're driving. Can you get just the text-based stuff done with? Because that's 280 words per minute, fair enough. The other option with that is you have some sort of transcript, or if there's any sort of written material uh, that sort of goes through the information, you can probably get that done faster because an untrained reader is going to be basically at 250 words per minute. I think one thing that's important here is even the people who speed up their lectures to 2 or 3 times, that is still a lower speed than just reading things at most people's normal, but certainly a trained reading speed, you can get through information a lot quicker. So reading books physically is a lot faster than audiobooks, for example. Now, practically how you apply this is audio only, I leave for times I'm doing something else. Whereas if there's any visual parts, that justifies listening to, or if there's anything that can be read, that is the sort of peak efficiency. So practically how I design my day with this is I would try and do my active things earlier in the day. So this might be flashcards, practice questions. Um, and then I think reading is something that when you're tired, it's really hard to read. So reading is sort of one of those peak efficiency things. So I'd put any reading earlier in the day. Now, as I start to tire, then I will go into the more low efficiency things. So, if there was, I don't do much writing or typing. I prefer copy and pasting because that's just quick. But lectures with video and audio, because that's completely passive, I will do that at the end of the day when I'm a bit more tired. Um, Maybe there is some benefit to doing it like just before you sleep, just from the memory side of things. And then I think any audio only things. So this is the lectures with visual material and audio. And if it's audio only, I will try and get that done at random intervals throughout the day because you can pause it, you can speed it up, whatever. Now, how do you know if the lecture is going to be predominantly audio or visual? What you can do is, let's say you get 5 lectures at the start of the week, just click through the slides, and then you can see, like, is the lecturer just going to read off the slides so you don't really need to look at them, or are there lots of diagrams and videos there as well? Now, practically, if there is, like, there's often a little bit of a mix, but sometimes the graphs aren't that helpful. So I will either look, if I'm going audio only and just listening to something while I'm, you know, cleaning the dishes, then I will most probably look at the slides before or after and just click through them. So that's another way of just breaking it down into sped up audio with a little bit of, reading to actually go through the slides. This is just to save you from the less efficient things, which is just sitting in front of a computer watching just an audio only thing where the guy's just reading the slides. So practically, what I'll try and break this down is into less efficient things, which includes writing, typing, and listening to audio only material, versus more efficient things, which are anything to do with reading, things to do with visual plus audio, and then if you can incorporate the audio only into sort of things that you're doing in your everyday life, such as chores, walks, etc., that will help you get more out of the study that you do. Now, importantly, I think everyone should do some sort of short amount of practice training their reading speed because that's going to make a big difference. So there's many good resources online, but the main things are to use a tracer, like a finger, a mouse, a pen, a marker, just to trace as you're going. Utilize your peripheral vision. So rather than starting from the end of one line to the end of the next, you practice reading one word in each time and then just between these lines, and your peripheral vision will capture that word at the end. Eventually, then you can go into two words in or 3 words in and see how you go. And finally, sub-vocalizing. So, reducing sub-vocalizing, I should say. So some people, when they read, will speak it out. Now that limits your reading speed to speaking speed. So that's going to halve your reading speed. If when you read, you sound the words out in your head, then you can get to around 400 words per minute. But if you just read the words without sounding them out, you can double your reading speed further. And that's how people will push it to 800, and some people can read at more than 1,000 words a minute. Now, if you train that and you can then read at 2 or 3 times the speed as someone else, that is going to dramatically change the efficiency with which you go through your own notes and with which you can learn material and revise material as well. So the two main takeaways from this video are to train your reading speed and think about whatever studying you're doing, whatever materials that you've got from school or university, what medium are they in, and how can you most efficiently learn from that medium? Yes, some people say they're more of a visual or a text-based learner, but that's important to think about as well. Because if you're a visual learner and you're spending time on these lectures where people are just reading off the slides, that is a waste of your time. You should spend more time, for example, going audio only when you're going for a walk, and then looking at some pictures after as you go through the slides. Let me know if you have any questions about this, but hopefully this will give you 1 or 2 key ideas that you can implement, which will then make a big difference to your studies. And the most important thing is take some risks with your studies, try something new, because Most people just do what everyone else does when they're in high school, and uni is the time where you can actually try things and work out what works best for you. Thanks very much, guys.